So I've read all 49 chapters of Record of Ragnarok. This series is still ongoing, by the way, and I want to talk about it in this video. I'm not going to be talking about the anime, which just adapts the first part of this series anyway, because that's a whole other can of worms. So in case you're unfamiliar with this series, let me give you a brief synopsis on it. So every 1,000 years, the Gods' Council assembles to decide the fate of humanity. After 7 million years of human history, the gods come to the decision that humans are irredeemable and must go extinct. However, the Valkyrie Brunhilde proposes to give humanity one last chance to prove their worth, and the gods agree to hold the Battle of Ragnarok, a tournament with 13 notable humans from across history against 13 of the most powerful gods, engaging in duels to the death. Humanity will be spared if their side achieves 7 victories in the competition. To even the odds, each human is granted the assistance of a Valkyrie who transforms into a powerful weapon tailored for their user's combat style called Voland, at the risk of losing their life if the user is killed. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you're a little confused by that, it's understandable because this series kind of throws you into the deep end of its world and just kind of expects you to swim. And what I mean by that is that this series is kind of unconventional and pretty original, actually. I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel or anything. This series is essentially just one really long battle manga tournament arc, but the way that it goes about it is really intriguing and, for a lack of a better word, kind of original. Now, don't expect a lot to be explained in this series because it throws a lot at you and moves at a pretty good pace, but, you know, like establishes so much lore and it introduces you to so many characters at the same time. And most of these characters are just adaptations of existing characters within multiple different mythologies and lores and religions. Like what I was talking about with the synopsis, the Gods' Council. Like, these gods are, you know, the gods that already exist within like mythology and religion and all that stuff. And from multiple different cultures, like, you know, the Greek gods, there's Asian gods, and so on and so forth. And the same thing goes for the humans. Some of them existed, I guess, and then some of them are kind of just urban legends or just myths or whatever. For example, like Lubu, who you may be familiar with, Adam from like the story of Adam and Eve, and even Jack the Ripper is in this series. Now, going back to what I was saying about don't expect everything to be explained, and that's because, like, you know, you're going to be seeing gods fighting humans, and somehow the humans are able to be competitive against the gods. And at first, these gods are established to be like what you'd expect a god to be, pretty much unbeatable, especially compared to that of a human. And words get thrown around in this series like omnipotent and omniscient, and it's better if you just don't take them literally. And of course, because these characters, both gods and humans, are just adaptations of existing lore, the authors kind of just took those ideas and gave them battle manga makeovers. Another interesting and I'll say different thing about this series is that there's not like a real concrete MC, I would say. I mean, if you had to pick like who the MC of this series would be, I mean, obviously it would be Brunhilde, but it's not like a conventional MC as to where like you're following their journey like what you typically do with this series. You're more so just kind of vicariously experiencing this tournament through Brunhilde. Because like what we talked about in the synopsis, she's like the one who is trying to save humanity here. She's the one who proposes Ragnarok. But outside of that, she never really fights or anything like that. At least not yet. I'm sure she will eventually. But aside from following her, the story tells itself through the fights, because as these fights go on, you're following the spectators, whether it be like the humans that relate to the humans in the match, and then there's the gods that either relate to the gods within the match or just the established god characters that we follow from start to finish, who are always going to be like the commentators as well as like expositional mouthpieces. And we even get like slow character arcs on these commentators as the series goes on, which is like another fun little aspect to this series. For example, like Hermes and Ares, like you kind of start off being ambivalent towards them, but as the series progresses, I personally came to really like these characters. And all they really do is kind of just commentate and relate to things. They never really like fight or anything. Now, as for the fights themselves, they're very formulaic and it kind of gets repetitive at a point, but at the same time, it kind of keeps itself fresh because every fight is different. And what I mean by formulaic is that you'll have the god who is obviously going to be the favorite, then you'll have the underdog human, then the human will reveal what their Voland is when one of the Valkyries, like one of Brunhilde's sisters, transforms into the weapon that the human uses, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to hurt the gods. And then the fight begins, and it's going to last anywhere from, like, I don't know, 6 to 12 chapters, maybe something like that. And through the fights we get the exposition on these characters as well as their backstories and multiple flashbacks. These characters are being fleshed out and also having their own character arcs mid-fight. And this is an aspect of the series that I've come to really enjoy. And as for the fights themselves, like the choreography and the attacks and all that stuff, it's pretty cool. And I like that they don't go too absurd with the power scale. I mean, considering that these are gods and some of them are referred to being like omnipotent, you'd probably think like, oh, they could just do whatever they want, or they could like blow up universes or galaxies or whatever. But no, it's not like that. It's actually kind of grounded. Just for me personally, I don't like when battle manga gets too powerful. So I appreciate the balance that is struck in this series. And since we're talking about the fights and the choreography and all that stuff, we have to talk about the art. The art is very, very good in this series. I would say it's actually one of the highlights for sure. And it actually gets better as the series goes on. So yeah, that's pretty much my review of the series, and I'm enjoying it so far. And going forward, I would like to cover it on my channel. I mean, it's just like a monthly release, so you know, that's not too bad. So overall, I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. I think this is a pretty strong series, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out from this point on. So at this point, I wanna go into spoilers for the series, so if you don't wanna know what's gonna happen, check out now. To finish off this video, I just want to give my personal ranking on the fights that have happened. So far, there are 6 fights, and the latest one hasn't concluded yet, but I'm gonna put that at number 6, which is Buddha versus Zero Fuku. This isn't bad, but it's just not as compelling as the other fights, and it's kind of annoying at times, mainly because Zero Fuku, I'm not really too much into this character, although I do like their backstory. Number 5 is Lubu versus Thor. This is the first fight, so we're not really too emotionally invested into it yet, but it was fine, and it certainly had its moments and really establishes what the series is going to be like. Number 4 is Raiden versus Shiva. I really like this fight because, you know, it's just pure battle manga blood and guts, and it's also the second fight that feels like a god versus god fight. Because let's be real here, Raiden could be a god in this series. Number 3 is Sasaki versus Poseidon. I mean, how can you not like this fight? Sasaki is just so likable, and him getting the first win for humanity is just... Number 2, this might be a little controversial, but Heracles versus Jack the Ripper. This is an incredible fight, and the writing is just so well done. And I love the dynamic because you're supposed to be rooting for humanity, but how can you root for someone as like evil and disgusting as Jack the Ripper? And at the same time, you have the good guy for the gods, Heracles, but he's also with the gods against humanity. And then with Jack eventually winning, just cemented this fight as like a 9.5 to me. Like, this is just so well done. And then number 1, Adam versus Zeus. This is just a really, really well done, cool, straight up battle manga fight. Another 9.5 from me for this one. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about Record of Ragnarok. Have you read it? Do you like it? Or has this video made you interested in possibly checking it out? Let me know. And if you liked it, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.